My grandmother came from Kentucky. My grandfather came from the northern part of the United States. And they got married, in which his name was Alec Garrison Vanderval. And my grandmother's name was Elizabeth Broadus. They had 5 children, and the youngest of the 5 was my father, who went to Fairview School, and I also went to Fairview School. We felt like it was a good place to raise children, and we stayed here. My children all finished high school and went to college, and especially the boys, and then they played football and got scholarships. They were upstanding citizens, and that to come from this small of area, I thought that contributes something to our community as well. Well, my brother-in-law was in Green Bay Packer. One of my sons, Marvin Schweitzer, he was in the Buffalo Bills. They wanted the one that graduated from Ashland, Oregon, to go with the Denver Broncos, but he says, I have my education, and that's as far as I want to go. Well, you know, I was talking to some children the other day, and they thought it was just unbelievable that we didn't have a wash machine. I says, I told him I'd been here too long. I've seen the time that the wash machine didn't have electricity or anything to run it. And then we got the gas one, and by the time we got electricity, it was in the 50s. Well, they said, well, how'd you keep your food? And they were just amazed that we didn't have a refrigerator and things like that. We canned the food, and then you usually ate it up. It was just amazing to them that we didn't have these things. We just didn't have it.
My name is Robert Brogdon. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. This was one of the first pictures I had taken while I was in the Air Force. And this is after I proposed to Billy. So it's just a little something to remind that I was still around. I came to Nicodemus for the first time in January of 1954. We retired from the Air Force in 1975 and came back to Nicodemus. See, I worked for the railroad, and they were taking on some help, but you couldn't get on as a permanent. And while I was out working for the railroad, I had an application into the oil field for Phillips Petroleum out of Bartersville, major oil company. So I left there and went to the oil field. That was in the 70s, and then I worked in the oil field until the 80s. That was a good place to work, but there wasn't too many blacks working in the, I think there was one more, my nephew. I was maintenance, and there was times when I worked at the visitor center and greeted the visitors, and I would tell them what I knew about Nicodemus. When we came back here, I think it was about right around 90 or 100 people here. And in Tallow Towns unincorporated, one of the requirements was a certain number of people living in Nicodemus. And at one time, that requirement was waived by the governor so that Nicodemus could become incorporated, which would mean we would have had a mayor, a city maintenance department, city. So we'd been running our little town. I find a lot of the people that I meet, and they get to know me, I tell them, I don't know what kind of deal that you had with other people, but you deal with me, how do you know me? And I pretty much, I'm a man of my word. Whatever I say, I'll do it. If you hire me, I'm gonna give you your money's worth or whatever, regardless. But it was something that you have to. If you're gonna talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk.
Family, we're together. We help one another. We've done various things for people, and they've done various things for us. So that's family. When we used to have big dinners and the kids would come out, we had a big family, but we still fed others. My mother was a good cook, and well, I've been cooking since I was 7 years old. Because my dad didn't keep us from nobody. We were supposed to help everybody. We had gardens and everything, and we would exchange, and we've known each other. We have ate together. We have danced together. Anything that you can name, I have been there with them. My home is Kansas. Everybody's here. It don't matter who they are. They're related to me, and I see them all the time. And we get to talking, and some of them have gotten old. They were kids when I was growing up. My father had us farming, teaching us how to do things. So we didn't get to travel back and forth. We didn't stay and play with others. Because we had a farm, we had to take care of it. My mother needed us. When they started getting old, it was time for me to come and see about them. And I did, and I stayed here. I said, this is home to me. And I said, nobody's a stranger here.
Well, I never did like city life, so I like everything here. We go fishing. I love the fish. I like to hunt. They had a lot of jackrabbits during that time, and I just go hunt with my brother and him and get the rabbits. And we had walnuts. We go sit on the tree and crack the walnut and eat the before we get them back to the house. We done got our stomach full. I drive around Nicodemus and wonder where everybody at. And so they call me kind of like I'm the marshal or something, demons, because I'm out early. I do not believe in staying in the house. This is Loretta Long, Susan on Sesame Street. She come out here, brought her producers out with her to the Nicodemus homecoming one year. I was proud to have a cousin that was into that. And this is my grandmother, Effie Moore, which come out from Georgetown, Kentucky. And she worked in a house and slave master. Had 3 children by the slave master. And only one that stayed. And he moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and the other 2 I never did know which way they went. This is one of my uncle, Reuben Moore, that my grandma Effie had by the slave master in Kentucky. And he would come down every year to celebrate his mother's birthday on Valentine's Day, February 14th. This is his oldest son, Leon, but they are both deceased now.
I'm Kenneth Jones, and my age is 102. I was raised on a farm. I started young, driving 4 horses. It's a lot different farm with tractors than farm with horses. It's a lot faster, and it's a lot easier. You don't have to feed them at night after you got through. And boy, it was dry. And everything, farmers couldn't raise nothing. They couldn't raise enough to feed their cattle or nothing. They had to ship in feed from Oklahoma. And I was going to school in the Dust Bowls, and they had turned us out of school early. They had turned us out of school at noon because they know the dust was coming in. You couldn't even see. The birds, their eyes would get full of dust, and my mother, she kept blankets up to the windows and doors, keep a lot of the dust out. They had let us out of school. You just get home in time for the dust to hit. And boy, when it hits, you know it. My dad was from Kentucky. He settled in Alta, Kansas. I was grown up when electricity started. So we used to use kerosene lamps. I was in the Air Corps. I was in Italy for about a year. You had to get out in points, and I never had enough points to get out, so I had to be shipped to South Pacifics. From Italy to the Philippine Islands, it took us 52 days. I got seasick. Oh boy, that's really something. Yeah, it was rough, but we made it anyway.
My name is Norma, and I'm a descendant of Nicodemus. My parents are Ivory and Freddie Schweitzer. My grandmother was Ors Schweitzer. My grandfather was Phil Vanderval, my mom's dad. My dad's father was Fritz Schweitzer, and my grandmother is Eva Vanderval. Well, I live in Topeka actually, but I come home now that I'm retired. From the time I left here, I always told people where I was from, and so they would say, "Where's that?" And I said, "It's a little corner up in the northwest corner of Kansas that's all black town." And a lot of people didn't know that because it's not taught in our schools as part of the history. And I had the opportunity to go to District Number 1 as a student, and I graduated from that school, and I was the last female to graduate from that school. Alex Vanderval came across from Indiana, him and his two brothers, and he seen my great grandmother and Mary Elizabeth and said that was the woman he was going to marry, and did. So voila. Meanwhile, this is where we come from. When they found out they could come here and homestead something that they could call their own, it took them that from 1865 to 1877 to save up that money for that $5 ticket. Knowing the background and what they did as they came out and how they struggled to put Nicodemus as a whole into a town, that makes you, you know your generation is going to be stronger from that generation and something to take pride in. In the fall, the plum bushes would produce plums, and so we had the opportunity to go out and gather that, and then they would can our jellies, and we had jelly all winter long and different flavors, and on hot homemade biscuits, and we'd even make our own butter because we had a cow. And then you always had homemade butter, homemade jam, homemade biscuits. We had the two churches, the AME church and the Baptist church. We even had a post office here, and it served as a candy store and pop store for us kids. My hope for the future is that we can, ones that are retired, can come back and have a place to live and bring Nicodemus back up, maybe not to 500 or 600 population, but at least put us back up into the 100.